This hostage situation played out on social media to a huge extent. It got the hashtag Sydney Siege. There are many different strands to it, which we'll try and unpick now. But one thing first to start with is the reaction from those accounts on Twitter who support the Islamic State. Every time there's some sort of incident, there are lots of people on Twitter who chime in, who propagandize on behalf of the Islamic State. But they didn't really know what to do in this situation. Take this tweet from Al Arabi. He said everything wrong with hashtag Sydney Siege. He's got a listicle, takes a chocolate shop, has a dodgy headband, brings the wrong flag with him. He's saying this wasn't really the brand of the Islamic State. Another person here complaining, not an ISIS flag, it is a Shahada flag, says there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is the messenger of God. So they were fairly confused by that, also maybe by the government's history, whether he was in fact signed up to the Islamic State, and didn't really get involved.
In stark contrast to other lone wolf attacks, like that in Canada, for example, there hasn't been much of a response from prominent Islamic State supporters to the attack in Sydney, and this is because people were suspicious. They were cautious about the flag being used by the attacker, as well as the fact that he is wearing a headband. That goes for Arabic and English language Islamic State supporters. People are very cautious. They didn't want to put their name behind a potential mistake, and it turns out that they were right.
Now, one more strand of this was selfies. Selfies are the bane of the internet. Well, maybe they're fine, but in this case, they seemed a little tasteless, and people were taking selfies at the scene of the crime as it was unfolding. Have a look at this tweet here. How to be a complete idiot. Take a selfie with police during crisis and post. I hate these people. And that met with a vociferous reaction online. People were really upset about that, and quite rightly so. Here's Mark DeStefano saying, now I've seen it all. Father has brought his 2 young girls to pose and take pictures at the hostage scene. Hashtag Sydney Siege. And that really did prompt a bit of an outcry online, and the selfies quickly stopped. So maybe that's evidence that Twitter can police itself and move on to better things. But one really good thing about today's response was a hashtag called I'll Ride With You. Now, this started when one Twitter user noticed a Muslim woman on the train. She was removing her hijab because she was a bit fretful there might be an anti-Muslim backlash. This was in the early days when little information was known. So she offered to walk with this woman home, and she tweeted about experience. Other people picked up on it and thought that was a good idea. Then Sir Tessa here, Tessa Kum, who's a writer in Australia, she says if you regularly take the 373 bus, wear religious attire and don't feel safe alone, I'll ride with you. At me for the schedule. And that went viral. There are more than 150,000 tweets with this I'll ride with you hashtag. A lot of that was Feel Good chiming in saying we're standing together, we won't be defeated by this. But a lot of that was very active. An active response in that it wasn't just clicking on it, it was offering specific travel details, schedules, real help in the real world, which is a bit different from the usual Twitter clicktivism. And it had a great reaction. Look at this tweet here. Thanks for protecting my sisters. Hashtag I'll ride with you. All the way through, and it really did go everywhere, spreading far beyond just Australia to New Zealand, then all around the world. Really changed the tone of it. There's always negative things tweeted around events like these, because there are so many positive tweets around this I'll ride with you hashtag. It really drowned that out. And then the last element of this, which we won't show you, but a lot of the demands made by the government were made through hostages' Facebook and YouTube pages. That's how he was communicating with authorities, which is a rather new and novel way to do things. And the Facebook was also important for the police. They said they were monitoring Facebook before they went in as part of their tactical operation. So when the police stormed in, they had been paying attention to all the Facebook and Twitter feeds. So this siege, this very tough, very horrible situation in the end, social media was a huge component about it, but mainly handled responsibly by users.